So why do toddlers reject healthy foods? This is a problem that most of us as parents experience almost on a daily basis, where you prepare a healthy meal, including the veggies like it's recommended, and you even go overboard, making it look different and taste good, and your toddler looks at it and says, I don't like it, or just smells it and says, yuck, or makes the faces that we tend to not want to see. And in some cases, I've seen kids who carry on with this rejection of healthy foods all the way through the teenage years. In today's video, I'll go ahead and break out or give you a few reasons why your toddler may be rejecting healthy foods. And this problem is really frustrating as a parent, especially when you've tried it all, I've done it all, and your kid is not eating. And then you may talk to your fellow parent whose kid is just like ravishing and cleaning the plate and eating everything that's offered. And sometimes it's just like, what's going on with me? Is it me? Does my kid have a problem? Like, what is going on? So today we'll talk about the different reasons why your toddler may not want to eat those foods, and I will give you like simple practical tips on how you can start slowly but surely introducing these foods in a way that your toddler will be more likely or more inclined to accept it. So if this sounds familiar, come on, let's go. First of all, most kids throughout the toddler phase will go through that phase. I'll say about 50% of kids will go through that phase where they are not going to want to try certain fruits, certain vegetables, or certain new things as a normal phase of development. And again, the other 50% of kids will just eat everything that's offered to them. Why is this? One is just unfamiliar with new things. There's some people or there's some kids who are more cautious with trying stuff that is not familiar. If it's not familiar, they're not going to go close to it. And when you look at it on the bigger picture, it's a way of kind of protecting. It's like a protective instinct, for lack of a better way of saying it, where it's like, it's not familiar, it looks dangerous, it doesn't look good, it doesn't taste good, I'm not going to go for it. So you may have a kid who is more cautious, and that usually will translate into different areas where you take a kid to a familiar place. They may hold on to you for a few minutes, kind of gauge the environment, kind of gauge to see, is this good? Are these my friends or the foe? And try to gauge it before they engage. So it's the same thing when it comes to the foods, where if you have that kid who does that in other situations or in outings, where you have your kid who hold on to you first to kind of determine whether or not they're going to proceed. But in those situations, we usually like comfort them and give them time to become familiar. And then before you know it, they continue on and play with other kids, or even dropping them off at daycare, where initially they cry because it's not familiar, but eventually as it becomes familiar, you drop them off and they say bye and they're off to go. So same thing when it comes to foods. Usually if you're presenting something that is new, something that is unfamiliar, they will have the same kind of reaction where I'm not familiar with this. So they're kind of gauging. So it takes time then, where I don't know what this is. I may just say, no, I'm not familiar with it. So it's just one of those kids where they have to see it time and time again for them to become familiar, determine that this is not dangerous before I'm even going to try it. So that's one of the reasons. Now, the second reason is that, unfortunately for us parents in this time and day, especially even with the things that are targeted as healthy or organic, there are a lot of hidden sugars in it, because our taste buds are more inclined to like the sweeter taste. So anything that tastes really sweet, we're more inclined to go for it, versus other things that are tasting either bitter or sour, astringent or something else, where that's where most of the veggies fall into. So if you have your toddler, maybe if at the time when we're introducing foods, where you started out with the baby pouches or the baby foods and stuff that had more sweeter taste to it. Now coming in, not only are we changing the texture per se of the food, we're changing the flavor and we're changing the taste, where we're going from sweet to bitter. So a lot of kids, because of that change in not only texture, taste, the way it looks, and it's now bitter, it takes a while for us to adapt to the bitter taste compared to the sweet taste, which is why you say, yeah, they don't want to eat any veggies, but they'll eat the chicken nuggets that have sugar in it, or some fries that have sugar in it, all these other foods that have hidden sugar in it, because the hidden sugars are meant for the taste, and that's where the marketing comes in, where like it's targeted for kids, and because of that natural nature of us going for the sweets compared to the other tastes. That's the second reason. And third reason is that they are going through again a developmental phase where they want that sense of control. They want to be independent. They want to be able to eat what they want to have, enforce that kind of control there. So you're not only fighting against the lack of familiarity, the taste, you're also going through again that phase of life where it's just like, I want to do it all by myself. So those are the three things that may be interfering with your toddler or keeping your toddler from eating the healthy foods that you're presenting to them. So that's where we're starting. So how do we fix this problem now? The first thing with the familiarity thing is that once you're introducing food, so if you're at a stage where you're starting to introduce food, say to your kid at 6 months or 9 months of age, a variety is important, and try to introducing the food in its natural state as much as possible. Whether steamed vegetables, again, choking hazard, making sure they're not going to choke on it. Steamed vegetables in a natural state where the carrots really taste like carrots versus carrots tasting like something else. And then now we're presenting the carrot itself, and the kid is like, no, I don't want it. But if you have the carrots in mixed pouches or baby foods, you see they're eating it. So try to rotate and introduce one new food every other day, so that by the time you're getting to the point with your toddler phase, they've tried or they've experienced or been through different flavors, different textures, and different tastes, so that coming now into the point where you're trying to give them the foods that you're eating, they're not now trying to relearn yet again this new taste, new food, or trying to introduce. Another thing is getting them involved with the process, just depending again on your child's age and developmental phase and the capabilities, whether it's just washing the veggies or it's even picking it up at the grocery store. You can use that as a mat. Let's pick up an apple, you touch it and put it in there. Let's pick up this vegetables. Again, we're trying to look at the different ways where they become in contact with the food prior to even presenting it to the table. So by the time it actually gets on the table itself, they've handled the food, they've touched it, they've seen it, they've smelled it. Doing all of that, even to on the table, we've seen some parents who are like, I've done all of that, and they still say no, and that's absolutely okay, because it takes time for them to again become familiar with it, and it may take several tries before they finally say, okay, I'm comfortable enough to actually even taste it or smell it, because eating it is actually the last phase when it comes to actually eating. They look at it first, they eat food with all our senses, we say, the sight, the smell, the way it looks, the presentation, and before we even come into the way it tastes. So that's the first part, we're dealing with the familiarity. Second part of it is that sense of control, where now you can still deal with it, where you're giving them choices. I'm going to present 2 foods that I want you to eat or that are healthy for you, but I'll give you the choice to pick. Are you going to eat A or B? So they feel like they're making the choice, but it was within boundaries that we are setting for them as a parent. So they have that sense of control. It could even be a plate that we're giving them. It's like, do you want to eat out of a red plate or a blue plate today? And you'll be amazed at what the characters on the plate, or the color of a plate per se, or the shape of a plate can make a huge difference with whether or not they're going to try a new foods, because that's touching again that part of control, but it helps them to become comfortable with eating it from a plate they like. So it releases that fear of, I'm not sure if this is good or not good. Those are the things you can do to help your toddler if they're rejecting food. So if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get more videos. And if you want more tips on how to help your toddlers eat healthy one bite at a time, thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Lumfern.